And so the Six Nations is a wrap. It finished with a fairly interesting weekend with a lot of close games. And even though some of them weren't as telling as we would have thought, there were still some interesting things that transpired overall. France beat England 33-31, catching a little bit of form at last from the French side. But I like the comment from Steve Borthwick that he just said, basically, England didn't lose, they just ran out of time. It's an interesting idea, but yeah, you need to get it done in the 80 minutes, Steve. Ireland beat Scotland by 17-13. Another performance by the Irish, just to show that they are tough nut to crack, especially at home. Scotland is, however, really taking a step up, and they're going from strength to strength overall. Italy was cruising in Cardiff, but well, the Welsh team didn't lay down. So even though the 24-21 points margin at the end of the day makes it look close, the Italians were in control for the majority of that game. The rankings at the top didn't change that much, but it was an interesting movement a little further down in those rankings. Ireland is still in second position, France in the fourth, and England fifth. But the ones that was really interesting to see is Scotland still in a very healthy sixth position, and Italy moved up to position 8. And Wales dropped to their record low of position 10 on the rankings. The way Ireland played, they just showed their class once again. There's not a lot that you can fault from the Irish team. It's actually damn difficult just to find flaws in their approach. And they've set themselves up nicely for a middle of the year tour to South Africa, where they'll be facing the world champions. So that is going to be a wonderful couple of tests that they will be playing down in South Africa. However, should Ireland lose, I don't think we should read too much into it. Should South Africa lose, we shouldn't read too much into it. I think it would be one where both countries would be playing their strongest teams because they want to make sure that they have that psychological edge on the other one. But it's also going to be a situation where they might want to bring in some younger, inexperienced players just to get them used to their national systems. This is something that happens after every World Cup year, and a lot of the results that you will see over the next few months will be very deceiving. A lot of the teams would have elder statesmen that are kind of at the end of their journey or ended their journey with the World Cup. So there's a lot of spots that need to be filled, a lot of players that need to get used to the respective systems in the respective countries. So even though that one should be strength versus strength, a few of the others might be a little lopsided. But it would be interesting just to see in pockets in those games how players perform. The French team was an interesting one. You could see that throughout the tournament they struggled and they really missed the guidance of Pont. They are, however, going to be playing against Argentina, which is a tough one to do in Argentina specifically. It will, however, be a great test for them and will help them to actually build up some depth, especially in that number 9 position where they've not been comfortable really playing anybody else except Pont. And they need that little extra buffer there so that they know that when that situation arises, that it doesn't just pivot around Pont. So it would be a good one for them to actually bleed some new players. England are off to New Zealand, and that's going to be a massive couple of tests. The English have improved throughout the Six Nations. Even though they're not at their best from a couple of years ago, they are still a much improved side from last year's tournament. So their trip down to New Zealand is going to be a very interesting one for a couple of reasons. The English are kind of building up and they're building in confidence, while the New Zealand team has their very exciting new coaching staff. It would be great to see actually if there's a specific thing that the New Zealanders do different under his guidance. Scotland has the easiest assignment of the lot, and they really have the biggest chance of building out their squad. They'll be playing against Canada and the US, Chile and Uruguay. So that gives them a lot of chances to actually give new players playing time and try out new combinations without it being a risky one at all. Regardless of the results there, they can really benefit massively from this tour in the middle of the year. Italy has got an interesting assignment. They're going to play Samoa, Tonga and Japan. So that would also give them the chance to do exactly the same. But it would be a little bit more of a challenging one for them. Those teams at times can really be tricky to navigate, and I think the physicality of the two Islander teams in particular will be of great benefit. Wales, however, have the toughest assignment. They will be playing Australia, and in any other year you might say, okay, but Australia were bad to say the least at the World Cup last year. However, they are now under Joe Schmidt, and with Joe Schmidt, you have the coach that actually helped transform the Irish team, that turned them into also Rands in the global game, to a team that would regularly beat the top teams in the world, and started the climb up the world rankings. When Andy Farrell took over, he continued with that great work with the Irish team, but that was definitely started by Joe Schmidt. So with him running things in Australia, we're bound to see a different Australian team. Might not be this year that they really start shining, but there would be glimpses. And I think as we go into 2025, Australia is going to do a U-turn and become a very competitive team again in world rugby. Overall though, I just feel that Wales should take a big squad along for the trip to Australia, and Warren Gatland is a smart guy. He would probably have the same idea to actually build a lot more depth in that squad. For all of the teams, that would actually be the core. If they can build depth in their squads, they can make sure that they become a lot more competitive over the coming years, and that when they hit the next World Cup, that there are enough players with enough games under the belt to actually handle the high pressure situation. So whichever way you look at it, all of these games from all of these Six Nations teams are going to be very interesting when they go on their tours. But based on what we saw from the Six Nations, I would say definitely, apart from the obvious low points, Ireland were the winners out and out. They were amazing throughout, exceptionally disciplined, playing well-structured rugby, and they were the top team. The surprise one, most definitely, was Italy. The way that they approached the game was something to behold, and it was a joy to actually watch their Italian team. Lots of promise there. And then in third place, I think there's a very interesting thing brewing in Scotland. They're taking steps up and on a regular basis, and they are playing a very exciting brand of rugby. So with the Six Nations done, what have we learned? What does the future actually hold for all of these teams? Because there were some interesting and shocking results throughout the competition. And basically, what does the future look like for each of these teams?